What kind of woman tucks her children into bed at night, knowing the ground beneath that bed could split open before morning? In one corner of Iceland, there are mothers who have packed the exact same emergency suitcase 3 separate times, not for a holiday, but to flee a volcano that keeps waking up under their town. There are women here who heat their baby's bathwater with the very same heat that once buried their grandparents' homes in ash. There are grandmothers who watched fire swallow 400 houses in a single winter, and who chose to come back and rebuild on top of the lava that was still warm. And here's the strangest part. These are not isolated, fearful women hiding from the modern world. They live in the country ranked #1 on Earth for women's rights. 16 years running. They run boats, run businesses, run the country itself. They fall in love, raise families, and chase careers on islands that scientists openly admit could erupt again at any moment. So how do they sleep at night? Why would anyone choose to build a life on top of a ticking volcano? And what do these women know about danger, home, and survival that the rest of us never learned? And today, we are going to uncover the hidden facts and realities that create curiosity about their lives. Let's count down 12 things almost no tourist ever understands about life here. Number 12, the mother who evacuated 3 times. Picture a mother in Grindavík, a normal town, a harbor, a swimming pool, a school, a supermarket, fishing boats coming and going. Then one night in November 2023, the ground began to crack. Not metaphorically, long fissures tore through streets and gardens as molten rock pushed up beneath the town. She had minutes. She grabbed her children, a bag, a few photographs, and drove out into the dark with nearly 4,000 neighbors. The whole town, gone, overnight. Weeks later, they were allowed back. She unpacked. The children returned to a kind of normal, and then it happened again, and then again. Eruptions in December, in January, in February. Lava reached the edge of houses. Each time, the same suitcase. Each time, the same drive into the dark. There are women in this town who have evacuated their entire lives more than once, returned, and started over, only to be told to run a 3rd time. Imagine the courage it takes to rebuild a child's bedroom, when you already know you may have to abandon it. But the truly haunting question isn't why they left. It's what made them keep coming back. Number 11. Living with a ground that never sits still. Most of us feel an earthquake once or twice in a lifetime and never forget it. Here, the earth trembles like a restless sleeper. In the months before each eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula, seismographs recorded thousands upon thousands of small quakes. Coffee cups rattling on the shelf, pictures going crooked on the wall, a low shudder running through the floor while you're brushing your teeth. The women here learned to read it the way sailors read the sea. A certain kind of shaking is nothing. Another kind means check the phone, watch the sirens, know exactly where the car keys are. Children grow up knowing the evacuation route the way other kids know their times tables. And on Heimaey, the island still sits on a living volcanic system. Scientists monitor it constantly. The locals have simply folded that danger into daily life. The way people in other countries shrug off rain. How do you raise calm, happy children on ground that whispers all night long? The answer says something profound about the Icelandic mind. But the most surprising thing isn't how they cope with the danger. It's how they've learned to use it. Number 10. Homes heated by the very thing that could destroy them. Here is one of the strangest facts about life here. And it sounds almost like a fairy tale. The same volcano that tries to bury these towns is also the thing that keeps them warm. After the 1973 eruption on Heimaey, the islanders did something almost no community on Earth has ever done. They drilled into the enormous field of cooling lava that had just devoured part of their town, and they pulled the heat back out of it. For years afterward, the leftover warmth of the lava heated the island's water and helped generate its electricity. They turned the wound into a radiator, and that's not a one-off. Across Iceland, around 9 out of 10 homes are warmed not by oil or gas, but by geothermal heat drawn straight from the volcanic earth. A woman in these towns can run a hot bath, warm her house through a brutal Arctic winter, and grow tomatoes in a greenhouse in the snow, all powered by the same fire that threatens to swallow everything. So when people ask how they live with the volcano, part of the answer is simple: the volcano feeds them. Yet to truly understand these women, you have to go back to the single most terrifying night this island ever lived through. Number 9. The night the whole island ran to the boats. January 23, 1973. Just after midnight, without any real warning, a crack over a kilometer long ripped open at the very edge of the town of Vestmannaeyjar on Heimaey. Fountains of fire lit up the winter sky. A brand new volcano, soon named Eldfell, Hill of Fire, was being born right next to people's houses. More than 5,000 residents were asleep. There was no time for plans, no time for fear. Sirens, knocking on doors, everyone to the harbor. And here is the miracle that saved them. A storm the night before had driven the island's entire fishing fleet back into port. So when the island needed to escape, the boats were already there. Mothers carried babies down to the docks in the dark. The whole population, an entire town, was ferried across to the mainland on fishing trawlers within hours. Almost nobody died. A community of thousands evacuated across the open sea on the boats they normally used to catch cod. But when the women looked back from those boats, what they saw on the horizon would change their island forever and decide whether they could ever go home. Number 8. The town that was buried in ash. For 5 long months, the new volcano kept erupting. Ash fell on Heimaey like black snow, day after day, piling onto rooftops until the timbers groaned and the roofs caved in. A wall of lava crept through the eastern neighborhoods, setting houses alight or simply pushing them aside. By the time it ended, around 400 homes were gone, burned, crushed, or swallowed whole beneath ash and stone. Entire streets that families had lived on for generations were simply underneath the ground now. Today you can stand inside that buried town. There's a museum on Heimaey called Eldheimar, built around a single house that was dug back out of the ash decades later. People call it the Pompeii of the North. You can look into a real family's home, frozen at the moment they fled, the staircase, the walls, the shape of a life interrupted. Above it, the lava field still steams faintly in places. Half a century on, most of those families never moved away for good. Within 2 years, the majority had returned to live on the very island that had tried to erase them. But the reason they could come back at all comes down to one of the boldest, most desperate battles a community has ever fought against nature itself. Number 7. Men, Women, and the War Against the Lava. As the lava advanced in 1973, it was heading straight for the one thing the island could not live without: the harbor. Lose the harbor, and you lose the fishing. Lose the fishing, and there is no reason for the town to exist at all. So the islanders did something that sounds insane. They decided to fight the lava. A team stayed behind on the burning island while everyone else was gone. They dragged pipes across the steaming rock and began pumping freezing seawater directly onto the advancing wall of molten lava. Millions upon millions of liters of it. The idea was to cool the front edge of the flow until it hardened into a dam that would stop the rest. For months they fought, day and night, in clouds of steam and poison gas. And against every expectation, it worked. The cooled lava formed a barrier. The harbor was saved. In a final twist, the new lava had actually reshaped the coastline into an even better, more sheltered port than before. It remains one of the only times in history humans have stopped a lava flow and won. That stubborn refusal to be beaten, to stay, to fight, to rebuild, is exactly the spirit you find in the women of these islands. And nowhere is that spirit clearer than in the country they helped build. Number 6. The most equal women on Earth. Here's something that surprises almost everyone. The women raising children on these volcanoes belong to what is, by the numbers, the most gender-equal society on the planet. Iceland has topped the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Equality ranking for 16 years in a row. The only country to close more than 90% of the gap between men and women. This didn't happen by accident. Back in 1975, Around 90% of Icelandic women refuse to work for a single day. No jobs, no cooking, no childcare. To show the country what it would be like without them, the nation ground to a complete halt. Men called it the Long Friday. 5 years later, Iceland elected the world's first democratically chosen female president, Vigdis Finnbogadóttir, a divorced single mother who went on to lead the country for 16 years. Today, nearly half of Iceland's parliament is women. Both parents get around 6 months of paid leave to raise a child. Childcare is treated as a right, not a luxury. More women than men graduate from university, and the country has had women holding its very highest offices at the same time. So the picture is not of helpless women clinging to a rock. It's of confident, educated, fiercely independent women who happen to call a volcano home. They date, marry, run companies, captain boats, and yes, Icelandic beauty is the stuff of legend, but spend a day here, and what stays with you isn't the looks, it's the steel underneath, which makes the next place we're going even harder to understand. A town those same strong people simply had to give up on. Number 5, the ghost town they were paid to leave. Drive through Grindavík today and it feels like time stopped. Cars still in driveways, a child's bike against a fence, curtains in the windows. But the streets are silent and great cracks run through the tarmac where the earth pulled apart. After the eruptions of recent years, this once busy fishing town of nearly 4,000 people stands almost entirely empty. The danger never fully passed. The ground kept moving, fissures kept opening, and living there became impossible. So the Icelandic government made an extraordinary decision. Through a state-run company, it began buying out the homes of Grindavík, more than 950 properties, over 90% of the town. An entire community bought back from a volcano. Around 4,000 people, roughly 1% of the country's entire population, became displaced from a single town. The residents earned a nickname for their stubborn courage, the Grindavíkings. Some still dream of going back the moment it's safe. Engineers even built enormous lava walls, 14 kilometers of barriers, up to 25 meters high, to defend what's left. But living on a remote volcanic edge has never been cheap, even when the ground is calm. And the cost of this life is one of its best-kept secrets. Number 4, cut off by the sea, the wind, and the weather. To reach Heimaey, you take a ferry across open ocean, about half an hour when the sea is kind. When it isn't, the crossing can be canceled completely, and the island is simply closed. No boat. Sometimes no flight either. For a day, 2 days, however long the Atlantic decides. This is an island that holds the title for one of the windiest inhabited places in Europe, out at its southern tip. Winters bring ferocious gales howling off the sea. A simple grocery run can depend entirely on whether the harbor is open. And because almost everything has to be shipped or flown in, life out here is expensive. Iceland is already one of the priciest countries on Earth. And on an isolated island, every imported vegetable, every household item, every liter of fuel carries the extra cost of the journey to get there. A woman planning her family's week here isn't just checking prices. She's checking the weather forecast, the ferry schedule, and the volcano alerts all at once. It's a life of constant logistics most of us couldn't imagine. And yet, somehow, out of that hardship comes some of the most unusual food traditions in the world. Number 3, the strange things they eat. If you sat at a table on these islands, you might be offered things that would stop most visitors cold. There's smoked puffin, the same charming little seabird that tourists travel here to photograph is also traditionally dinner. There's hakarl, Iceland's infamous fermented shark, buried and aged for weeks until it develops a smell so powerful that first-timers can barely get it near their mouths. There's wind-dried fish, torn into tough, chewy strips and eaten like jerky through the long winters. None of this is for show. These foods were born from pure survival. On a cold, treeless island far out at sea, you ate what the cliffs and the ocean gave you, and you preserved it however you could to outlast the winter, smoking, drying, fermenting, salting. What looks bizarre to a tourist is really a record of how people stayed alive here for 1,000 years. And the puffin connection runs deeper than the dinner plate. Out here, that little bird is woven into one of the most touching traditions you'll ever hear about. A tradition led mostly by children. Number 2, the Children's Puffin Patrol, and the Night the Hillside Sings. Heimaey is home to one of the largest Atlantic puffin colonies on Earth. Hundreds of thousands of pairs nesting in the cliffs each summer. At the end of the season, the young puffins, the pufflings, leave their burrows for the first time and try to fly out to sea. But the town's lights confuse them, and many crash land in the streets, lost and helpless. So every August and September, something magical happens. The island's children pour out into the night with flashlights and cardboard boxes. Hunting through the streets for stranded pufflings, they gather them up, keep them safe, and carry them down to the cliffs to release them back over the ocean the next day. Generations of Icelandic kids have grown up doing this. A whole community of mothers and children turning bird rescue into a beloved rite of passage. And once a year, the islands throw one of the largest festivals in the country, Þjóðhátíð, a tradition stretching back to 1874. Thousands gather in a volcanic valley for bonfires and music. On the final night comes the brekkusöngur, the hillside sing-along, when the whole crowd sits on the slope and sings into the dark, and red flares light up the valley. One for every year the festival has been held. Joy and danger, side by side, in the shadow of the volcano. Which brings us, finally, to the single biggest secret of all. Number 1, they know it will happen again, and they stay. Here is the fact that changes how you see everything else. The scientists are not hopeful that the danger is over. They are certain it isn't. Experts believe the Reykjanes Peninsula has woken into a new volcanic era, one that may bring eruption after eruption, on and off, for decades or even centuries. The magma is still gathering underground right now. A new eruption isn't a question of if, it's when. The women here know this. Nobody is hiding it from them. They tuck in their children, plan their careers, fall in love, and grow old on ground that geology itself has marked with a warning label. So why stay? Why not leave for the safe, quiet mainland? Because to them, this isn't just dangerous ground. It's home. It's the harbor their grandfathers fished, the valley where the hillside sings, the cliffs where their children rescue birds, the warm water that comes up out of the same fire that threatens them. The volcano didn't just shape their land. It shaped them, their toughness, their humor, their refusal to be moved. In a country that has handed women more freedom and equality than almost anywhere on earth, these women have made the freest choice of all. They looked at the volcano, understood exactly what it could do, and decided anyway that this was where they belonged. That is how they sleep at night. Not by forgetting the danger, by choosing the life that's worth the risk. When you peel back the postcards, this is the real Iceland. Not a frozen wonderland, but a living edge of the planet where the ground breathes, where towns are buried and reborn, where a mother can pack the same suitcase 3 times and still call the place home. The women here aren't waiting to be rescued from their volcano. They are heating their homes with it, fishing beside it, raising fearless children in its shadow, and building one of the most equal, confident societies on earth right on top of it. They've made peace with something most of us spend our whole lives running from. The simple truth that nothing is ever fully safe, and that a life worth living is often a life lived right at the edge. Most tourists fly over this place and never feel any of it. Now you know what's really down there. And that's the hidden side of Iceland's volcano country. From its beautiful women and fascinating traditions, to its remote villages, unusual foods, and everyday challenges, this is a place that proves the world is still full of surprises. But now we want to hear from you. Which fact surprised you the most? Could you imagine living here? And would you ever visit this place yourself? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure into another fascinating corner of the world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.